Good morning and welcome. It's the Small Business Support Group. It's Monday. Yes, I know. It's that Monday feeling, the 13th of July. Let's have a quick look at where we are on the news this morning. More than 100 virus outbreaks tackled a week. That's what's been said by the health minister. Targeted action means outbreaks are being swiftly dealt with. Okay, we'll talk about that. Man City overturned 2-year European ban. Don't really care about football, so we'll skip on. Actress Kelly Preston dies at age 57. Kelly Preston is married to John Travolta. Unfortunately, she lost her war with breast cancer, unfortunately. And also, I know Maz will be really happy with this. Manicure are back as England lockdown eases, so she can get her nails done, which is lovely. So let's see who is on. We've got a full house this morning, this afternoon, which is all very exciting. We have Maz with her huge fingers, massive fingers and thumbs. We've got Andy's here as well. Mark is on, and we've got Darren on as well. Look at that. We've got 5 people on. Good morning, everybody. Everybody have a great weekend.
Yes, thank you.
Jolly good. That's fantastic. Grant is in a meeting this morning, which I don't know if I should say, but he was supposed to be going to Leamington. He ended up in Coventry. I'm not sure what went on. I think he got the wrong postcode in there. So he may be joining us in his car in a bit. But let's go over to Maz because she wants to kick things off because she hasn't been here for a week. Is it 2 weeks, Maz? 2 weeks?
Probably, about 2.
Yeah, you can answer me questions, darling. Okay, off we go then. Here we go. Go on, Maz.
Okay, so good afternoon to everybody. I'm going to speak about the financial strain during the COVID-19. As you can see, lockdown restrictions are beginning to ease and people are returning to work. But the virus is continuing to impact our lives. The economic disruption has placed many financially vulnerable people in danger of further hardship. Across the nation, anxiety has been high as people are bombarded with concerns about their health, their loved ones, their jobs, among other things. So financial strain has a very real capacity as an unwelcome cherry on top. When the UK's lockdown began, nearly half of the people experienced really high anxiety. According to the Office for National Statistics, particularly the self-employed and those that were renting, anxiety was really high. And anxiety was the highest amongst an estimated 8.6 million people whose income fell. 2 in 5 people who work for larger companies reported an increase in financial anxiety in the wake of the pandemic. And 1 in 5 said they were actually unprepared. And while nearly 1 in 10 admitted to being very unprepared. And half of those surveyed said they were making plans to be more financially resilient, with 54% of those saying they would keep a closer eye on day-to-day spending. Meanwhile, 46% of those making plans said they would put more money away into an emergency saving fund. However, I'd like to think it is not all bad. More than 2 in 5 workers, that's about 44%, said that they have spent less in general as a result of the pandemic. And 17% said they had realized they can actually live happily on less each month. The coronavirus crisis has drastically changed all aspects of life as we know it. But it has also brought a sharper focus on money, particularly in how prepared we are to weather unexpected financial events. Money is actually a really emotional subject. Taking practical action can help you feel more in control. It's not something to be embarrassed about. There are a lot of people who are embarrassed to talk about money and their financial situation, but talk to somebody about this. And actually, if you're not comfortable in talking to somebody about your finances, I would suggest writing down all your outgoings or using an online budgeting tool to get a clearer picture of where you are and where you would like to go. And like I touched on earlier, that the virus has had a drastic change on the way that we actually spend. I mean, it would be really interesting to hear your guys' thoughts. But for me, it's like I was a member of a health club, and I've decided actually now that it's going to open, I'm probably not going to go back, and I'm going to cancel my membership only because I really enjoyed my morning runs. And interesting, Matt, that you mentioned about having my nails done. I've been doing them myself. Can you see the pink color? So I'm thinking I can do it myself. But I have got a haircut and color tomorrow, guys, which I'm really looking forward to because I can't do that myself, obviously. But on that note, I'm going to pass it over to Darren, Mark, and Andy Moore on their thoughts, really, of the financial strain during the COVID-19 and after.
So I can't. Your roots look all right there, Maz. I don't think you can't see the roots.
No, but you can't see them because I flipped my hair. There.
Oh, is that how it works? I must try that. Yes, money. It's vitally important, isn't it? And we've talked about it probably several times over the past few months during the lockdown period, and I mean, I think that the government did a great job of helping people. I mean, I don't know what type of mess it's going to make us into in the future, but with the furlough system and the grants for the self-employed and the mortgage holidays and the credit card holidays and all that, and I think that they put all that in place quite rapidly at the start, and I think that did help people, and I think it took a lot of the worry off. But I think it's just as and I'll use an Andy Moore-ism here, is that they've pushed into the long grass, really, the problems that may still come about over the next few weeks. I mean, it's a difficult one. I mean, I can start a rant about Tide Bank again if you want, and how they've now I think they're going to be shutting. I think they've fallen out with everybody. They've got no money. I'm going to see Metro Bank on Wednesday to see if we can open an account with them because they're supposed to be just dishing out the cash. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens.
Nothing happened because I remember you saying that on one of the episodes on the show that they said that they'd run out of money, didn't they?
Yes, they officially ran out of money. Yeah,
that is so
they've got nothing. They've got nothing else to lend, and they can't get any backers to take that delicious 1% profit, which I know it doesn't sound much, but I suppose if you're lending out tens of millions, 1% is quite a lot. So I don't know why they haven't got any investment, but they've closed their page for the bounce back applications, and their waiting list is now on hold. There's this other thing that's going about. I don't know if anybody else has heard about this, or any of our watchers and listeners have been affected by this. But because you're on a waiting list for a bounce back loan, you can't apply for another one. So this now means the 100,000 people who are on Tide's bounce back waiting list, are trying to go to other banks and being knocked back, and not checking why they're being knocked back. And the reason is they're on a list. So I've actually withdrawn myself off the list now, so you can apply somewhere else. So make sure if you are on the Tide bounce back list that you remove yourself from it, because it will affect you, because it works within the inner workings of the system of banks. Andy's probably the best one to come to first about this, about personal finance and business finance. I mean, how many people have you spoke to over the past few months, Andy, that are in problems or have got issues?
Quite a few, but the bounce back loan has helped a lot of people now, an awful lot. And some of those people have applied for bounce back loans, have not actually used them at all, but just keeping them in reserve for what's up ahead. And including also the coronavirus business interruption loan, which is a much larger figure than 50,000. Some of my clients have got those as well, or instead of, and they haven't used those either. Although we're talking about a wide cross section of businesses that are reporting, obviously massive drops in turnover and business trading until we restarted sort of really this month, I suppose you can say. Some of the businesses obviously continued. Some have got very little drop off, but they're really just sort of treading water until everything sort of starts up this month and going forward, waiting to see what happens.
I think it's the
furlough and all these loans, everything, which I have to say, and it's very rare for me to say, the government and Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, has done a fantastic job It's a pity he wasn't in charge of the pandemic, dealing with the pandemic.
It's not like you, Andy, giving them praise.
It probably would have been a much better outcome with that, because the government has been so slow. I mean, we're hearing about face masks now, and Boris Johnson was seen wearing a face mask. Probably lives could have been saved. But it's interesting. Funny enough, I was actually just only doing some research at the weekend about how countries are prepared for every eventuality, or Armageddon, as I call it. And unfortunately, Boris Johnson disbanded the committee that was dealing with these so-called Armageddon and pandemics. He disbanded it to the 6 months prior to the pandemic. And it's also interesting to note, for instance, the US has an enormous amount of oil reserves, not in oil fields, oil reserves in actual pure oil. And you can't find anything about the British government having anything like that. We have got some reserves in the ground and in the North Sea, but not actual strategic oil reserves, where the Americans have got about 1 billion barrels. All we've got is a few contracts. It's quite interesting, something I've been talking about. But we're spending all this money, but what have we got at the end? Nothing. Yes, they've saved all these jobs, and I keep saying, let's put a few billion into strategic assets and build assets. I keep talking about the Honda factory that's lying empty at the moment. That's a strategic asset. I was very pleased to find out who's behind it, that we've invested 400 million buying into a satellite system, or satellites. I know you heard.
Yeah, I'll just jump just before you carry on there. That they bought into that system, but it's a failed system.
Yes, it's a failed.
It is unfortunately it's failed, because it's the same as Musk's Skynet system. But with him having like 500 satellites up there now, I think they've got 100. Is it, or is it 90 or something up there?
Yeah, I know it's a failed. The company failed.
Yeah,
we're not sure whether the satellites have failed. The satellites are there, which is interesting, because it's the first time that we've actually done that. Services have done that for a long, long time. Oh, here's my team.
Here's Marion.
Here's Marion, my team. So the message that I keep persecuting politicians with may be getting through. We are now going to be an independent nation on the 31st of December at 1 minute past midnight. That'll be the 1st of January, and we've got to prepare for it. The Conservative manifesto actually talks about rebuilding the shipping industry, but yet last year they closed a 163-year-old shipyard in Appledore in Devon. Madness. Total economic suicide. And that's what you've got to understand. I keep talking about the economy. Let's invest from the foundations. If we're not making things, we will not survive. And when I say make things, that's also growing things or utilizing natural resources. Now, for instance, we talked the other week about the tidal wave project. Not one is live in the UK. An island nation with an abundance of tides and waves, and we haven't even got a single tidal project going. Now, that is short-term thinking by politicians. Unfortunately, some of them have never actually had a career, a job, a profession, or a trade. They've gone straight from university into politics, and that is the problem.
Can I just interrupt there? Thanks for having me on the show. It was great. Yeah, that's it. I'm sorry. I thought we were on a party political broadcast there, Andy. I mean, yeah, we know that you don't like the Conservatives, but the fact is, let's get a grip here. We're in a state of emergency. We've never been in this situation before on a global stage, and yet we are bashing the government, who are trying their best to put right what they have no understanding. None of us have an understanding of coronavirus and how it's going to have long-term effects on the economy. And what we can say is, yes, the Chancellor has pushed in money. He has pushed in opportunity for businesses to restart themselves, to push themselves further. However, at the same time, and this is something I will agree with you on, they are just putting off the inevitable. The 31st of July, we'll see that the furlough is reduced down to 50%. 50% that businesses can claim for staffing levels. What we're going to find is mass unemployment. We're going to find that this is the doom and gloom and Armageddon. Or are we going to find that entrepreneurs, they're not born, they're made. That people with grit inside them. And I've seen it on my network where people have said, you know what, I was made redundant and I've gone out and set up my own business. Where one man sees a problem when he sends a person to the desert to put their to sell shoes, another person sees an opportunity. This is what it's about right now. I've been given no money. Businesses like me who do fall through the crack, Matt's one of them. Yeah, I dare say Darren's business is one of them, where they're not paying, real estate for service charges or all of this. They're not getting the money because they don't own a property, and therefore are not seeing the money that was promised on the grant side of things, or they're not getting the bounce back loan because they're just not fitting in the right criteria. What I'm getting at there is we've had to get on with it. I've had to get on with it. There is no way of looking at it, and you've been a great help for me there, Andy, with advice. But the fact is, if you want to survive this, do not rely on anyone but yourself, because you're the only person that can change your own destiny.
I agree. Can I just jump in there, because a couple of things that Mark said as well. So there's a couple of things which I fight with. I agree that the government's made a right mess in certain areas, but it's really, and I feel that I'm one of the few people who can actually turn around and try and look for a blame. For what's happened to my brother. If Boris had done something earlier, would it have made a difference? I can't live like that. I don't think any of us should. We can't live looking for someone to hold culpable for everything that goes wrong. I know that we should be holding the government to account and all that good stuff. But we also have to be really positive and also understanding that this is unprecedented, and there are people cocking things up. There are people, opportunities making money wrongfully. But I think it's really, we need to stay positive, and I do agree with what Mark says, is we do have to take it in our own hands and deal with it how we can. Just going back with what Mark said about us all missing opportunities, and certainly on the right side, we had another good something come to fruition last week. We applied for a discretionary business grant, and we got a quarter of what we applied for, but nevertheless, we got the Cornwall Council and Devon Council. We applied to Devon Council because of where our business is, our one site is. And we got a quarter of what we asked for, this discretionary business grant, because we're not paying rates, and they appreciate not everybody has got a property that they pay rates on. But nevertheless, there was 13.5 million given to the council to give out these discretionary grants. So another part, and I'm no Tory, I'm no Boris fan, but I do think there has been a lot of good stuff done, as well as the cock-ups along the way. So another one for people to look out for, discretionary business grant, to see if there's anything out there that suits any of you guys.
Is that discretionary business grant, is it, you say?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put that in the link later.
Yeah, that is fantastic, though, Darren. I met someone who was a former councillor. I didn't necessarily agree wholeheartedly with what she was saying, because obviously at the same point, she said to me that I should be looking at this discretionary business grant, and a lot of people hadn't been applying for it in the Tewkesbury Borough Council. But what she did point out, and a little bit like it was tongue-in-cheek then, I thought, what? So you got £10,000 for selling knickknacks at probably 10 pence a piece in your little shop that she has on the high street, which, I think, fair play, if you've got £10,000, that's brilliant. And she also said to me, the shop behind you, which no longer was occupied, also got £10,000. I feel, and maybe it's a grievance or not, but, I've been running this business now for 18 months, been in business for over 20 years. I've not had any sort of good help like that. And well done for them for taking it. But it does stick in my throat a little bit that people like the person she was talking behind, who had a little antique shop. I don't know if anyone's seen the Harry at Henfield sketches. I seen you coming. That was the kind of shop it was. But took £10,000 and then vacated with all the stock and just left it empty. That is wholeheartedly wrong. That is not going to help high streets get back on the track. They were given that money in good faith. And I think people like that should be found out, and they will be found out, because the fact is, this is not free money. As Andy says, we're going to pay for this somewhere along down the lines, through taxation, through pushing up of increased rates, and all of this. The children, if you like, are going to pay for this for generations to come.
Yeah. I agree, and this goes back to the debt, doesn't it? If you look at, sorry, Matt, if you look at, I've been thinking about this myself, and watching politicians fight over the last two or 3 years, which has just become, it's made me realise almost every politician out there is pretty much corrupt. And the only person I like to listen to these days is Jonathan Pye, who gives a straight message. That's about it, really. But watching them all have this tussle, and one blame the other one for the last 5 or 10 years, and the other one blame the other one. And a lot of the time when I voted, I just voted which person do I want to look after my kids, Gary Glitter or Jimmy Savile. I'm trying to work out which one's the best, you know, and that's the decision process for me. Just looking at where the blame in the Labour government for spending so much money over so many years, and then the Conservatives not spending enough, when you think about them arguments that have been going on over the last few years, and now you look where we are now, and our Chancellor seems to be able to find £1 billion down the back of every settee he looks down. I just don't understand where this money's coming from, but I do agree with both Mark and Andy that we are all about to get a good kick at the backside, because we're all about to pay, or for all the defaulters that have had the bounce back loans, that have just had it out of opportunistic reasons and not invested it into their businesses, therefore it's not going back into the system. All them people, we're going to feel that pain, not just now, but in 12 months' time, because you get a 12-month levy before you have to start paying. And as soon as they have to start paying, they go, oh, I'm going to fold up that limited company. I think we're all going to feel it again then. So it is a really real challenging times.
It's not very fair for the people who can't get it, isn't it? Absolutely. I mean, you know, we're going to get kicked either way, and we haven't had any support, you know. Absolutely. And that's really wrong. Can I just say, Darren, are you in a jungle today? Where are you coming from? Because
beautiful, isn't it? That garden.
Well, that's
a beautiful looking garden.
Yeah, that's part of my back garden. That's the messy bit, and the trampoline you can just see in the middle of it also.
It's just a palm tree I can see. Sorry, I've just got.
Think about retail as well. Well, this is something because Darren, I didn't know, but Darren, have you got something to do with retail? Have you, your family?
No, so no, mine. It's Segway, so mine's very touristy. So we do Segway hiring. So
So, but look. Just on this, we've heard the announcement about John Lewis closing these stores, one big one flagship in Birmingham, right? And again, this is where it's gone wrong, right? Now, for years, what we've done, we've increased parking charges. We've increased public transport charges because they've been privatised. The parking charges are all privatised as well, right? Then we start attacking the motorist. And now we're bringing in these low emission zones, right? We've persecuted 37 million motorists for decades, right? We talked previously about diesel and petrol and electric cars and all that. It doesn't matter because less and less people are going into city centres and town centres. And this is what I'm saying. Fundamentally, the politicians have got it completely wrong because all they know is the blunt instrument of tax. Sadiq Khan in London upped the congestion charge in London by 40%. He said the government made him do it. Piers Morgan caught him out and had the letter there. The government didn't make him do it. He did it himself. And that is a fact, right? So the point is we've got this coming in Birmingham. We're creating ghost towns because the very people who we need to come in are saying, listen, my wife, she says I don't need to go out anymore. I order everything online. Yeah, I don't go shopping. She's shown me something she's ordered today from TK Maxx. Some of it's going to go back. We're either going to post it back or drop it into the local store, right? The point I'm making is it is completely fundamentally flawed, the policies they're following. And it doesn't matter which party's doing it. I heard the shadow business secretary for Labour, Annalise, whatever her name is, Dodds, I think, is it? Calling it the climate crisis. What climate crisis? I went out my cycle ride yesterday, 10 miles. Beautiful weather, clean air. I felt energized when I got back.
That's not how it works, Andy. Just because it's a nice day.
No, it is how it works because what we're saying is, let me explain the facts. UK emits 1% of the world emissions. 1%. Get that in your heads, guys. 1%. The next 15 top polluter countries emit over 70%. 70%. So if we bust our economy pursuing climate, what I call a vanity project of Theresa May, right? All of them are going to be laughing. Already the French are laughing at us because they're not pursuing zero emissions. They're saying they're going to cut emissions and do this. But when I was in France last year, I passed this enormous EDF nuclear power plant that covered probably 12 square miles, right? And that is what the French are doing. All of EU are doing, right? They're saying they're doing things, but they're not actually. We're the only ones in the world that's going to bust our economy on a vanity project. And in the meantime, we're seeing it live happening on our screens. John Lewis is closing its flagship store at Birmingham Grand Central, right? Because there's no people going in there. And that's not because of COVID. That's partly to do with COVID, but it's also to do with what's been going on for the last 10 years.
Andy, when you say was he in retail, so I also work for BT and look after big corporate clients. So John Lewis is one of them, funny enough.
Yeah.
New Look, Debenhams, and I'm watching some of these customers have to transform their business. New Look is one at the moment, transforming their business massively. Big store network, 600 stores in the UK. And COVID has made them have to rethink how they transform their stores. But again, it's probably a bit different to the department stores. But department stores, Debenhams, I've worked on Debenhams for probably, I don't know, 12, 15 years. They're a dinosaur, and that's the thing that frustrates me. So some of these department stores are just they're just not what people want anymore. Even the John Lewis, even your lovely one in Birmingham, it's just people peruse around them, but people don't buy from them anymore. They're just dinosaurs, and it's a dying breed.
Yeah. So what's the answer then, Darren?
Well, I'm just saying that we invest. I agree. The whole experience is changing, and we need. Yeah. Well,
the government's actually. That's crazy.
And you need to invest in out because you're
dead businesses. You know, Debenhams has been dying for many years. John Lewis has been dying for many years. I agree, invest in the high street, but we've got to evolve, and the high street has to be different. And the high street is moving away from them types of shops. They're becoming eateries. They're becoming your coffee chains and whatever else. We have to embrace that we're going out to the high street now to socialise, not to purchase.
Persecuting the motorist.
Yeah.
Maz is the only female on the show. I'll ask her a question. Maz, at night time, do you use public transport at night?
I wouldn't.
In the day.
Well, I'll tell you, as a former police officer of 16 years service, as a volunteer, I'll patrol the streets. They're dangerous at night. They still are. And they haven't embraced law and order, right? And females will not go anywhere unless they're driving in normally, right? Even in the daytime now, there's a horrific rape in Manchester at the weekend where a lady went to Morrison. She was tailed for 15 minutes in daylight and raped, right? Unfortunately, another area which I'm quite experienced on is law and order, and I persecute politicians on this subject because they don't do enough about it either. I also make regularly complain. And I also am a volunteer in my street watch. But here we are again, no investment, right? Cut till we got no police officers, right? You'd be lucky to find them. We couldn't have enforced the COVID policies anyway. There were not enough police, right? France deployed 100,000 police officers to their COVID pandemic and 50,000 troops. Every city of France had troops on the street. Why? To reassure the public. But our politicians seem to be scared about this, right? If I see armed troops on the street, I'm happier, right? Because I'm a law-abiding citizen. The only people who are not happy are criminals and non-law-abiding and people who are a bit have a different view on life about, a police state and all that sort of stuff. So the fact of the matter is, what we're saying, here we are, is investment. Let's use some of these billions, like Darren said, £1 billion down the back of a sofa to give out to so-and-so. It's been used in consumption. Let's create assets, right? So if a company's about to go bust, or a national icon is going to go bust, a brand or a business, like Norton Motorcycles got sold to an Indian foreign entity for 16 million, a mere 16 million, a company that's over 100 years old, let's buy it into public ownership, albeit temporarily, and then let's float it on the London Stock Exchange. But we must put a safeguard in place that some other foreign entity doesn't buy it up, because that's what's been happening over the last 20 years since privatisation started, right? Let's buy these brands and businesses, are great British brands, and buy them ourselves as a nation and keep them. They've announced all this saving for the theatres. Let's talk about the arts, yeah? And the arts must be preserved. What are we great at in Britain? The arts, music, comedy, making films. That's one of the great things that we're great at. If one of these theatres, these iconic theatres that we've had for over 100 years or longer, is about to go bust, let's take it into public ownership. The Conservatives are scared to death of this because it's not what they stand for. But we're in the 21st century now. We've had a global pandemic and Armageddon. Everybody's got to change, including politicians.
Hang on, though. Surely, it goes back to my point. If you need help, self-help. Help yourself. Yeah? These theatres are all like it, yeah? Yeah, they could simply go and do a crowdfunding solution and say, look, we're going to go bust, yeah? But if you want to keep this in the hands of the British people, we need to raise this much money and we'll distribute the shares.
That's an option as well. That's an option as well.
Yeah.
But I'm saying,
Andy, we can't rely on the government to nanny state everything we do in business.
I'm afraid in Armageddon you have to.
Yeah.
Just like they did in World War II. This is World War III. It's a different enemy, though. It's an unseen enemy. And one we probably may not be able to beat, right? The government has got to intervene at every level, from the bottom to the highest and everything in between.
No, they don't. They don't, mate. They don't. They just look at China. They're by it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And therein lies the problem. Therein lies a very big problem. And that's all over the world.
As the internet connection, but Darren and I both know it's nothing to do with the internet connection.
So, gentlemen, we're going to be wrapping things up in a moment. I just want to bring up something which I'd seen over the weekend regarding bounce back loans. I know we've been talking about that several times. That there's a brand new scam that's going around for the car garages. I don't know if Andy's heard about this. I know he's got connections in the car industry, but second-hand garages have had customers ring up and say, "Oh, that Porsche you've got for sale at £40,000. I really want to buy that." And this actually happened to a car garage up north, and they went, "Yeah, sure, it's for sale. Do you want to come and have a look?" No, he said, "I just want to buy it." And he went, "Okay." He said, "Can you raise an invoice and send it, email it across to me, and I'll transfer the cash into your bank account?" So they raised an invoice, sent their bank details across. Then they had a quick search, because it's a limited company. Whoever this scammer was, searched the company ID, company's house, got the name, address, and birth date of one of the directors, went to the bank. This is all happening within about half an hour, and applied for a bounce back loan at that bank for the car garage, which has obviously got it in there. Obviously, car garages, previously was doing very well. So they said, "Yeah, no problem at all. You bounce back loan. It'll be in the account in a couple of hours." And they went, "Great, thanks." Did that. Then the money then was transferred into the garage's account, £40,000. And then the guy then rang up and said, "Oh, I've just transferred the money across because it says there's just a code number." And he said, "Is it in there?" And of course, they've logged on and gone, "Yeah, it is in there, £40,000. Yeah, that's it." And, "Oh, I'll be down to pick the car up then." But it was only just one of the bright sparks in the office said, "Hang on a minute, this doesn't seem to be right." So they rang up the bank and went, "No, that's your bounce back loan. You just put £40,000 in your account."
Well,
how it is genius, but Jesus. That is insane. Anyway, that's a little bit of a warning.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. We can't get a loan, and there's somebody's buying a Porsche for £40,000 with somebody else's money. Genius. Anyway,
He's
that
clever.
is about it. That is about it. And it's been a serious one and a very debatable one. So I'm going to leave you with a little 10-second video that I found over the weekend, which made me giggle before we go to the credits. And it was a theme park in the States that was testing out the roller coasters before they reopened. And instead of putting weights in it, they put a load of teddy bears in there. It's an amusing one. I'll run it for 10 seconds. It'll make you smile. Then the credits will run. So thanks a lot to Andy, Mark, Darren. Maz had to jump off because she had a call. We will see you tomorrow at midday. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.